his knowledge was somewhat limited on the subject. So I kind of just followed him, even though I knew it inherently, because from watching like either you or Derek, like I honestly knew certain things that weren't really going how they should be with what I was using.
Now tell me, what's this mysterious story of the conflict between my close friend Derek and you? How did this start? So Derek made a critique video on the first cycle for your first competition. I watched it this morning. Now, I know we talked about this privately, and you're such a nice guy, and you said that basically you were younger, but tell our audience what happened, because it's a little funny.
So it is funny. So, okay, basically what happened, I mean, I am and have, and I've always been a fan of Derek. And what happened was, well, so I made a video that, and I spoke about the first cycle that I ever did in my private Facebook group. And somebody in that group then went to YouTube and made it public. And so then Derek got a hold of it through that. So I was a bit upset about that in general. Not that he got it because it was fair game, but that someone did that. And honestly, like I told you privately, at the time, I was 19 maybe, 19 at the time or 20 at the time. No, I was 20 at the time actually, or 21, sorry. So I can't get off I was a grown man, but I was definitely, I would like to think more immature than I am at this point in life. And he made this video basically critiquing the cycle because it was out there in the public eye. And it was just simply a horrifically bad cycle that I would recommend to nobody. It was a really, really bad cycle. And I think, and Derek's, reason for making it was obviously one, for content, and two, to stop people at all costs from trying to use this cycle to, you know what I mean? Because okay, if I'm looking good using it, people think, oh, I'm going to use it too. So he made the video probably in good faith and also probably to give me some advice. But when you get put out there on the internet like that, I think sometimes because obviously I was getting hate in the video because people, I think they just hate on, they hate on people that are successful. So at the time, I think I just would still get upset at that. And so people are like, this guy's shit genetics. This guy's never going to do well in his show. And like, what, this guy's lying. He's on trend and test. And you know what I mean? So I'm like, whatever. Right. And so, and I think he alluded potentially in the video to like the fact that he thinks I'm probably just lying because I don't want to admit to injecting stuff or something, which really wasn't the case. I was just on a horrible cycle and I got bad advice. But yeah, so I got upset that he made the video and like he basically bashed the cycle. And at the time, I didn't think it was a horrible cycle because I was severely uneducated. So I guess I copyright strike I didn't copyright strike it. I got the video taken down. However you do that, I forget how I did it. And I got the video taken down because I was upset. I was just pretty much butthurt that he made the video. He was totally right. And I was upset about it. It made me look dumb because I was dumb. And that's really what it was. And so he definitely got upset about it because he obviously made time to make the video. He did nothing wrong at all in the video. And yeah, he was upset about it for sure. And I think I talked to him privately and I told him like, I apologize in the future. And then he eventually made another video, which I gave him positive comments for. But so that's pretty much all it was. It wasn't anything serious.
Let's just briefly, because I wrote some notes on what he critiqued in the videos. Let's briefly cover them because they were very insightful. Yeah. The first one was a cycle basically of Anavar and Winstrol before your competition.
And I added Proviron at the end. Just said 4 weeks of Proviron. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that one. But basically, Derek's critique there was this. If you take these things, you're going to shut yourself down. So you're not going to have testosterone and aromatized testosterone as estrogen. So you're going to limit like your IGF-1 signaling, things like that. But also his main point was this. You already had testosterone originally. Now you remove that, but you replace it with something that's not that much more powerful than having a little bit of testosterone. So you might end up, obviously it worked for you. My thoughts, actually, me and Boston were having similar conversations on our podcast recently. My thoughts were actually, I was critiquing a cycle that was 250 milligrams of testosterone for 10 weeks. So I was thinking, hey, dude, why would you want to, this was my idea and see how it relates to Derek's. My idea was this. Why would you want to go, and Derek is okay with that cycle if people respond to it. But my idea is this. Whenever you go on cycle, you've just injured yourself. You just handicapped your balls. And that's a really big issue. That means long-term you may end up with problems. Now, if you're going to handicap your balls, shouldn't you use something that's significant enough that you're going to gain some things long-term? Or use something smaller, But don't handicap your balls. All you got to do is use HCG. You don't need any testosterone base. You don't need any injectable. In fact, injected testosterone doesn't aromatize as much as HCG because a lot of the aromatase enzyme is actually around the gonads, literally in the balls. So, and also when you inject testosterone, you don't get any progesterone. It doesn't convert to it. Progesterone is made in your balls also. Not all of it. There's some made enzymatically. But the point... I had a similar idea, which was basically if you just did the same cycle and had used HCG, it would be hard to critique. Except people would say, hey, the Winstall going to dry you out, the Anavar won't dry you out, but they're both DHT compounds or something like that. But it would make total sense if you just had HCG.
Either at least a little bit of test. Like, I mean, honestly, looking back, at least a little bit of test or HCG. I mean, even if I was on like even 150 milligrams of test, I would have had probably like 1,000 nanogram per nanoliter, like test levels minimum, or probably about there. I mean, my levels get really high on testosterone, like when I even use a little bit, but basically, but yeah, so either way.
Metabolize slowly. Yeah. Interesting. That's very interesting.
Actually, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I feel like
if you inject testosterone and your levels go higher than normal people, it means that you're getting rid of the testosterone slower. On the other hand, if you, for example, took HCG and your levels went higher than other people, it means your balls had more capacity to produce testosterone than they were originally doing.
Because I was going to say, the other day, like I got work in my mouth, and they had to. The doctor said he had to inject like 6 times the amount of like numbing stuff in my mouth because he said my metabolism was metabolizing it so fast that it kept hurting.
So also there are a few different enzymes that metabolize in the liver, so you can have different polymorphisms for different ones. So maybe some things will metabolize quicker than other things. The second critique he made was on a cycle with a testosterone pin twice weekly with an AI. Derek first said that, why would you pin it twice weekly when you're pinning the Mastron thrice weekly? By the way, why was that? I'm just curious.
So I've learned so much, but I think, why was I pinning twice?
Yeah, let me clarify my question. This is what I meant.
Yeah.
If you're pinning the Mastron 3 times a week, are you using a needle that hurts or something like that? Are you not backloading an insulin syringe?
Oh. No, I'm using a needle that hurts. Yeah.
Oh, bro. That's why you were doing it twice a week. That's what explains it. So look, because my idea was like, hey, if he's already injecting the Mastron 3 times a week, why doesn't he put the test with the Mastron? So this is the thing, dude. When you inject with a normal needle, every time you inject, you cause damage to the muscle, and it hurts. There's no need to do that. All you have to do is take your normal syringe, pull out the plunger of an insulin syringe, backload 1 milliliter into it, put the plunger back in, and now you have a tiny little insulin syringe that you can inject around your chest.
No, that's what I do now. I do that now.
Yeah. So then you can inject daily, and this wouldn't be a thing. But the other thing is, do you really want? So he was saying you want stable testosterone levels so that you aromatize less and don't have to use an AI. That makes sense. You want to use less drugs. Maybe the AI gets involved with other pharmacokinetics of other drugs, but the AI itself isn't technically harmful. But having stable levels is cool. But also, this is something I bring up on my channel sometimes. Men don't have stable testosterone levels. Ours peaks in the morning and goes down through the day.
Yeah.
If you have a really stable level, that's also not a bit natural. So sometimes I've been thinking about like using intranasal testosterone. You can probably get that from a HRT clinic, or a transdermal with no attachment to it, so that it can be digested quickly. So you can take that in the morning and then have a base level of testosterone. So it peaks and declines. I think that's what's perfect.
Yeah.
So you mentioned...
I do every other day now. Because I find that if it's I find that the more stable it is, what it can do is really help with like acne specifically, because a lot of times the twice a week or even 3, I find the more frequent you can pin it, it's going to be better on acne.
Yeah, honestly. Because it has less demands on your enzymatic system as a sudden one. Okay, so also he mentioned he didn't like the Proviron. He mentioned not using the Anavar and Winstrol, which have aesthetic effects so early because there wasn't. That makes sense too. And then he mentioned your heart rate was 125 over 70 something. He was saying long term you wouldn't want to keep it above.
No, blood pressure. Blood pressure.
Sorry, blood pressure. It was 120 over 125. That was a very good point also. You know, a lot of people have like 130 or 125, and just a small amount of a blood pressure medication would keep them in the safe zone. Are you below 125 now?
Oh yeah, now I mean I think my blood pressure is probably 115 to 115 over like 70 to 75, like pretty much every time I take it. Yeah.
So what's your deal with testosterone and DHT drugs? You seem to only like testosterone and DHT drugs. How come a guy with your genetics never tried Anadrol or DHB or very low dose?
The only drugs I've ever used are testosterone Masteron, the only two injectables, and then Proviron, Anavar, and Winstrol, the only things I'd ever messed with. But basically, it was just kind of like my coach. And like, I mean, he's a great guy. Like, I mean, not to throw him under the bus, but I mean, he's a phenomenal guy. But I think his knowledge was somewhat limited on the subject. So I kind of just followed him, even though I knew it inherently, because from watching either you or Derek, like I honestly knew certain things that weren't really going how they should be with what I was using. But I would listen to what he's saying because, I won the first show. I'm just like, whatever. And a lot of times that's how it works in bodybuilding. I mean, many people, I would say 99.9% of people are not using like the least health damaging thing with the best positive effect. Like, as you see from the cycles, I was damaging my health more than need be to get a worse effect than I could have gotten from other things, for sure. So that's just really all it was. It wasn't, now I would never recommend that to a client, and I would never do it, either of those specific cycles. But it was just honestly a lack of knowledge at the time. And obviously you're going to get results from it, right? So I was getting results. And even if you don't have the greatest genetics, like if you're using, 800 milligrams of injectable gear and like some orals, you're probably going to change, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
but
for me,
people,
I didn't realize.
But some people don't change that much, really, Dylan. Some people like you.
Yeah. No, I've noticed that. Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's why it's hard sometimes to learn when you respond so well, because it's hard to tell exactly what's going on. And so that's why the best teachers are the worst performers, because they had to try so hard to figure anything out, like myself, I've figured everything out along the way.